Hopefully third time's the charm here. Yeah, so just had a bunch of problems. So long story short, doesn't matter. Okay, I want to create an app. I want to build a thing, and it doesn't really matter what thing it is. But I've got a little idea, and I didn't just want to build like a to-do app or something. So I want to build a Morty deck, and a Morty deck is a lot like a Pokédex, but it's for the game Pocket Mortys. So basically, we've got Pocket Mortys is basically Pokemon for Rick and Morty. So there we go. That's the long story. So we've got some Mortys, and we want to display them somehow. So that's kind of what we're getting at here. Is we've got a bunch of Mortys that you can collect and capture and stuff like that, and you battle them against each other. And we want to display all of the Mortys that there are. And so we've got a nice little list here of all the Mortys that we've got. Thank you, GameRevolution.com. And so we're going to kind of just use this as our data. And so basically what we're going to do is follow along on Ember's website. They've got some good tutorials and a nice little guide here. And so we're going to follow along, and we're going to kind of mold it to what we want to do. But I've got kind of like a general idea of what I want to build, and we will do it, and I'll say it. But first, we're going to install the Ember-CLI, and the Ember-CLI is pretty cool, and it does some neat stuff. So let's just grab that, npm install globally Ember-CLI, and that's going to take a little while. So I already have some stuff up. Basically, we're building Pocket Morty Deck using Ember and Phoenix/Elixir. I can write that down too. So I basically want to build this front end with Ember for no real reason other than I like Ember and I like some of the things that it's doing. And then I want to build the API with Phoenix and Elixir, and those are some functional backend. Elixir is a functional backend language built on top of Erlang, and it's good for a lot of stuff. It's kind of, I don't know if you'd say overkill for what this is, but nonetheless, I'm excited. And then after I build that, I'd like to connect the two. I'd like to have Ember consume the API that we built with Phoenix and Elixir, but that's going to be down the line. After we do that, hopefully we'll be able to add like an admin section, I guess, to where like there was an update to the game recently, so maybe I'd want to add some more of the Mortys that were just added and not have to do it say in the database or something like that. Right now we're only building the Mortys, but there are a bunch of items in the game, there are a bunch of quests in the game, all that kind of stuff. So maybe add items, quests, etc. I don't know. There's all sorts of like attack moves and stuff, so maybe we could expand upon what we've already got in there. I don't know. And then finally, I kind of had an idea to add user registration to save like let's say someone else is playing the game and they want to save what they do. I don't know if that's actually a reasonable idea or a reasonable request or anything, but let's assume that it is, and let's assume that people would want to do it, and that's what we're going to do. So here we've got 3 Mortys, and I literally took this basically right from here. So we've got an ID for our Morty, and we've got a name for our Morty, and then they've got a type. I'm going to skip the evolution for now. We'll talk about that later. We've got a height and a weight, characteristics, and a description. So we've got number 1, just regular old Morty. Number 2, we've got scruffy Morty, and 3, unkempt Morty. So these 3 are going to be just where we start, because we just want a little bit of data, and then we're going to kind of mock up what it's going to look like on the front end, and then we'll go from there. I mean, there's just on this list alone, I don't even think this is the full list. We've got 82 Mortys, and I think there's over 100 now or something. But we can figure that out later. That's basically, we just want to get something onto the page, get something built, and then I'll be pretty happy with that. So Ember is obviously taking a while to install, so I guess we can just keep talking. Let's dive into Ember a little bit. Well, we can the next step is Ember new my app, but we can follow along with some guides here. This is their getting started tutorial. This is basically what was on the front. What was on the front page. It shows you how to install the Ember command line interface. It tells you how to install or how to create a new application, how to serve, what roots are, what components are, all that kind of stuff. There's also some core concepts here which are pretty important. It's a good idea to get an overview of how an Ember application works. Basically, you go to a URL. The URL, the router maps URL to a root, and the root handler loads the template in the model. That sends it to the components, basically, which renders the templates and uses that data, and it might be composed of different components and all sorts of stuff like that. So we can talk about the router and the root handlers. Imagine we were writing a web app for a site that lets users list the properties to rent. At any given time, we should be able to answer the questions about the current state, like what rental are they looking at, and are they editing it? In Ember, the answers to these questions are determined by the URL. The URL can be set in a few ways. The user loads the app for the first time, the user changes the URL manually, the user clicks a link in the app, or some other event in the app causes the URL to change. So basically, anytime anything's happening, it's going to be defined up in the URL up here, and that's good. So no matter how the URL gets set, the first thing that happens is the Ember router maps the URL to a root handler. The root handler then typically does two things. It either renders the template or it loads a model that is then available to that template. We'll go over what models do in a minute. Templates are basically the layout of an HTML application. Most templates in an Ember code base are instantly familiar and look like any fragment of HTML. For example, this string within a div that says, "Hi, this is a valid Ember template." Awesome. Ember templates use handlebars, and handlebars are kind of like helpers, kind of like a templating language in itself here. Templates can also display properties provided to them from their context, which is either a component or a root. Technically, a controller presents the model from the root to the template, but this is rarely used in modern Ember apps and will be deprecated soon. Okay, great. Here, the name is a property provided by the template's context, and we can go over that later. Models represent persistent state. So, for example, our models will be, this data right here. This is persistent. This is stuff that isn't going anywhere, basically. For example, a property rentals application would want to save the details of a rental when a user publishes it, and so a rental would have a model defining its details, perhaps called the rental model. So we won't have a rental model, we'll have a Morty model, and the Morty's going to have a bunch of different attributes. We're going to have an ID, which the model will automatically have, but we will also have a name, height, weight, type, characteristics, description, and we could even go further with that. We can go like like different attacks and different powers for those attacks, or evolutions. We don't have evolutions on here, but we can go through that later because that's not just a one-to-one model. So a model typically persists information to a web server, although models can be configured to save to anywhere else, such as the browser's local storage. And we do that for a little bit, but not for too long. But we will do that in the model, or in this tutorial. So components, while templates describe how our user interface looks, components control how the user interface behaves. Components consist of two parts, a template written in handlebars and a source file written in JavaScript that defines the component's behavior. For example, our property rental application might have a component for displaying all the rentals called all rentals. So we might have a component called all Mortys, and another component for displaying an individual rental called rental title. So we might just have or rental tile. So we might just have Morty tile or Morty block or something like that. The rental tile component might define a behavior that lets the user hide and show the image property of the rental. I think this is a bit of foreshadowing on what we're going to be building. Let's see these core concepts in action by building a property rental application in the next lesson. Well, we'll do something like that, but it won't be a rental application. Let's see if we're done installing, and we are not. That's actually going to take a while. I don't want to get too involved, so maybe I'll take a quick break and we'll go from there.